Andrew, thanks again for speaking with us this morning about church planning related issues. Now, one of the key things that the Geneva Push offers the people that it supports is coaching, and you're responsible for coaching, what, about 8 or 9 guys?
In different contexts, yeah.
Yeah. So, when you sort of have that sort of different context to look at, do you see any common ground as you're talking to blokes who are actually out there planting? Do you see that there are common issues that they're addressing?
Yeah, look, there's always stuff comes up, and in the last little while, as I've been talking with guys and pastors more generally, there's there's a few issues it strikes me just in terms of our identity about who we are and what we're seeking to be as pastors. Um, Most of us have gone to theological colleges, which are good. So we've been blessed with some great colleges in our country, and what they've encouraged us to be and do is be theologically minded, be concerned for um, faithful, scriptural, expository ministries, kind of protecting the gospel for the next generation, passing it on. All of that's fundamental, absolutely important, and we don't want our colleges to be distracted from doing that. They've got to keep doing that.
Mm.
The problem is we come out of all of that experience with a mindset which is perhaps a classic old, older style model of pastor, which is, my aim is to set up an evangelical ministry to ensure that the reformed evangelical faith is guarded and protected and that people are nurtured and strengthened in that faith. And that's the end.
Mm.
That's who I am. That's what I am. And I do a bit of mission. I do some evangelism, and I try and do as little organisational stuff as possible.
Mm.
I
It's
want
as
to,
if the model would take care of itself, or the mission, so to speak, would actually progress on its own, or maybe the culture itself would be happy to just sit there.
I think what I detect my temptation is, and I detect it in others, is that there's only so many things you can kind of keep at the foreground of your mind, and you're so dominated. You plan with a desire to impact a region
Mm.
within a year, 2 years maybe. You've got a group of people, small though it may be, and their concerns, and your concern for Bible teaching and so on,
Mm.
brings to the foreground other issues.
Mm.
And I do want to keep contending that we must consciously, deliberately for ourselves as pastors, keep thinking we're mission pastors.
Mm.
We're we're concerned for the cure of souls in the two big disciple making activities, which are making disciples in the first instance,
Mm.
conversion, evangelism, and teaching them to obey everything. The deepening of the discipleship walk. They're the two big things that must constantly be at the forefront of our minds. And so we can't let ourselves, certainly as church planters. Now, church planting makes it easy in the first days because viability requires me to keep looking out.
Mm. Mm.
Viability means I've got to reach people to get this structure thing going.
Mm.
But as soon as you hit viability, you're in very great danger that that whole mission enterprise will slide into the background.
So it becomes more about maintaining the people who are there than it becomes about looking out.
Or even it becomes more about thinking I'll deepen and grow them
Ah.
for the mission without sufficient awareness that I've got to keep leading the mission. I've got to
Mm.
keep compelling people through my pastoral work to be foreground mission thinkers,
Yeah.
whatever shape that takes. Now, see, the other thing I would do want to add to that is organisational. In that, again, I think we keep creating this dichotomy between organic pastoral work and organisation. And dare I say, there's language around it that might encourage that. And my friend, I think it's very helpful in many regards, that language. But one of the dangers is that my wife does a bit of gardening. She's planted 6 things to create a hedge, and she pays careful attention to the hole digging and put it in place. So, but we're not. We're actually farmers. We're managing a region that we're planted a church into, which requires not just the backyard nursery mentality.
Mm.
It requires the organisational, structural, strategic farming of a whole region mentality,
Yeah.
which requires you to think into um, organisational activities, how to manage people in bigger systems and structures, how to grow, that whole dimension. And instead of thinking of it as the necessary evil before I get onto the real pastoral work, I've got to realise that the way I pastor people is through gospel multiplied by organisational systems and structures.
Yeah, I can understand that because sometimes, yeah, as you say, the whole management side is presented as that necessary evil that a pastor, if he really can get away from, so that
Yeah,
eventually he'll just be doing the Bible work. But this is actually a ministry in itself.
absolutely. So yes, the gospel grows the church, but how we multiply the impact of the gospel is through attention to the systems, the people systems, the organisational structures, the management processes. All of that's absolutely critical to multiply if we're to be more than just the backyard planting half a dozen things. Do you know?
Yeah, actually, I've got a question for you. Then, how do you personally, how do you tell the difference between um, taking part in that organisational side, which is actually multiplying the impact of the gospel, and administration that just seems to be swallowing you up? I mean, they must at some stages look quite similar. I mean, how do you tell? What's your rule of thumb to say, is this part of the work and is this not?
Yeah, yeah, good. The thing that I keep at the very forefront of my thinking is for us it's the 30,000 number. Um, so for us we've gone very unapologetically down the 10% vision line.
Mm.
We want to see 10% of our region converted as the first step towards 100%.
Yeah.
But we've got now. I find that very helpful in that I I need to see another 23,000 people in church. That's my aim. And so I'm constantly asking myself, is this activity, is this organisational concern going to help me get to the 30,000? Now, in one sense, you could argue, yes, all of it does, but there's a law of diminishing returns. So that sometimes an activity of administration it might make it neater as we get there.
Mm.
Well, I'm not so fussed about that.
Mm.
But this system, this communication process, this organisation will actually multiply our impact. I'm committed to spending time on that one. So for instance, tidying up accounts. If you don't do it, it'll kill you. But it's not going to help you. It's not going to strategically push forward the work of reaching 30,000 people. It'll just kill the organisation so you don't get there. So you've got to keep that analysis going and determining where to spend your time in the best ways.
But those sorts of things need not become your primary concern, whereas some things you're not going to let go of the reins of simply because they are that primary goal, that 30,000 goal or whatever that goal is that you have, for your particular area.
Yes, and identifying what things are critical for me as the leader of this mission that I can't let go of. That's right. Now, for us as we've grown, as we've moved from the small 10 group to people in a room 15 years ago, as time's gone on, I've had to keep reflecting hard on what are the things that I can't let go of that are unique to what I bring to help us get to the 30,000. And one of them, incidentally, I think we're making this message clear enough, is that the leadership of money has never stopped being my responsibility. Interestingly, from the beginning all the way even to today, if I don't take lead for that, we won't get to 30,000. Yeah. But analysing that, thinking of that, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, management as ministry, I think that's going to be a big pill for some people to sort of chew over, think through. At least it'll make Mondays a lot easier. So, mate, I hope you have a good day, and thanks very much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Pleasure. Good on you, mate.